in bed, meditate, I think I should. No, we ain't friends, got me on.
What's going on, guys? It is Bryce from Fitz Records, and we are back with another video. I am reviewing Logic's debut independent album, College Park, today. I have listened to this album pretty much on repeat, exclusively, since the day it released. It's been going crazy. I'm going to go through pretty much a track by track and kind of give you my brief thoughts of each track and then an overall thoughts on the album at the end, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to do a tier list for this album later, when probably like a week down the road, when I really, listen to it, you really like decide, what tracks I'm taking and where I'd place them. But right here, we're going to have a little bit of an in-depth review, so we're going to get right into it. Hey, but before we get into that, you know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm going to play a little TikTok on the side, hey, you see that shit? I don't want to get copyright, so I'm not playing the audio. But yeah, you see that shit. Okay, but we gonna just start out right here with the first track, Cruising Through the Universe. Now, I will say that this is probably one of the weaker tracks on the album, which I'm actually surprised, because on my first listen through, I was like, this is a fucking banger. This is probably one of the best on the album. But listening back to Logic's verse, he's not saying much of literally absolutely fucking anything. The RZA's verse is nice, the drums are nice. I like Logic singing on here, like the intro to the song itself, I think is very good. Logic's verse wasn't too crazy. I did like the vocal, pitch changes. A lot of people don't like when Logic does that, but I thought it was hard. But like I said, wasn't anything crazy to me. And the next track here is Wake Up, which was a single, so I've listened to the song a lot, the first single for the album. And the song is pretty good. Lucy Rose doesn't have a singing feature, she's just narrating like she does throughout the album. But Wake Up is hard, you know what I'm saying? It's just not anything absolutely crazy. The chorus is super catchy, though, I will say. That instrumental is like that sound, that shit is fire. Definitely fucking with that. This next track was the last single for the album, Lightsabers featuring Dot Castro. Now, this is the best single. This is one of the best tracks on the album. The constant switches, the constant flow switches, instrumental switches, and then, at the end of the verse, you have Logic talking to himself in the third person, then it switches to him rapping about how he's going to go back in time and hand the mic to his boy in his mom's basement, which was Castro, and he spits his verse as if he was back in the day, like back in time, and then the skit ties it all together at the end, how it says, that was literally, Castro was literally writing this verse as Logic and Lenbo were on the way to pick him up. That shit is fire. That shit is fire, you know what I'm saying? I really enjoy how the skits kind of tie into the subject matter, and we're going to get into that a little bit more. I do have a little bit of complaints about the skits, but hey, we're going to get into that. Clone Wars 3, pretty good track, nothing absolutely crazy, just Logic talking about, his come up in the rap game, and I do enjoy that he is saying things he hasn't really said on tracks before, comparing himself to other rappers, and not in like an egotistical way, but almost the opposite, saying, pretty much admitting, under pressure, Incredible True Story, whatever, I was basically trying to be Kendrick, I was trying to be Lupe, I was trying to be Cole, and he just admits that, and then he kind of talks about how that, would mentally strain on him until, later on in his career, when he's like, hold up, I am Logic, it doesn't matter, no one could ever be me, I can't be them, that is what it is, and I really enjoy that Logic went into that. What I will say is, what I was saying about the skits, is the skit on this track is really long, and there's, no substance. It's just funny. It's just them going through a drive-thru, and, talking to the lady, and she can't hear him, and then Lenbo says some funny stuff about fat person fantasy, you know what I'm saying? It was funny. It's just skits like that don't have substance and are long, don't really have that replayability factor. Something like Lightsabers, a very short skit at the end that literally ties straight into the next track, I love. And even later down this track list, skipping to Playwright, the skit at the end goes straight into Gaithersburg Freestyle. I'll talk about that when I get to that. But this next track, Pill VII, wow. I've seen some people say this is kind of a spiritual miracle, lyrical individual track, which is true. Logic is doing a lot on this track. He's flowing on this track. There's so many bars, so many lyrics. He's just going on this track. But I do like the subject matter, about, his mental health and how he's trying to fix that and addiction. One of the two tracks on here that goes really heavy into substance addiction. More so drugs, almost a widespread, level, not really a personal level. He gets more into, his personal, struggles with addiction and family and stuff like that later on Village Slum, but this one is more of, a broad thing, and Logic is just rapping. This is a rap track, definitely the best track as far as rapping ability goes. If you're into that shit, if you want to hear Logic rap his best, I think Red Pill is your way to go. This next track here is Playwright featuring Andy Hull. This song's fun. It's a nice vibe, you know what I'm saying? It's not anything crazy to me, though. I'm not gonna lie, it's nice, though. It's smooth. I don't have any crazy complaints. I wish Logic had another verse or something. Andy Hull, beautiful, beautiful vocalist. His vocals were great on this track, and like I was saying earlier on, the skit leads straight into Gaithersburg Freestyle, how they pick up Six, who makes Logic's beats, and then they talk about how they're going to freestyle and how, Six's laptop is in his dorm. However, Castro bought a beat CD, and he plays it in, and he says, I'm a spit. And the Gaithersburg Freestyle starts off, cypher, posse cut style of Castro going. He was just saying, he's suicide my does, fucking all these hoes. Like, I get it. It's the radio. It's funny. And then it actually switches into the actual song after DJ Boss Player announces them as if he was in 2011, but it's set in the year 2023. It's crazy. It's crazy. And then this might be my favorite song in the album. It's just so hard. It's definitely the hardest song in the album. If you just want to get into this album for like a slapper, a fucking banger, listen to Gaithersburg Freestyle. Fat Trel's verse. Holy shit, dude. Fat Trel's verse is fucking wild. It's fucking wild, dude. That he goes for so long and he said the word slime on a Logic song. The first person I think ever to use the word slime on a Logic song. Shit is fire. Castro's verse was fire. Phil Day, he finished his rap, you know what I'm saying? And as we're going through this track list, you were seeing a theme of these tracks leading into another. To transition it into Insipio, there's no skit on Gaithersburg Freestyle. It's just an audible beat switch, and it's sexy. Insipio starts off, that flow is infectious, that fucking rapid fire, like Logic. That's the Logic flow. This Insipio is like the Logic flow. I do wish it was longer, and I really wish Logic rapped on the second half of the instrumental after the beat switch, because, oh my god, that shit is like crazy to me. It reminds me of I Guess I Love It from Vinyl Days with the game. It's just like the horn in the background, but we just get Lucy Rose talking over it, which I guess is cool, but I really wish Logic had rapped on that. Now we have another highlight on the track list, Self-Medication, featuring Seth, MacFarlane, Redman, Statik, Selektah. This song, all these people just came together, the most unexpected collaboration ever between these four people, and they just made it work. You have Logic, paying his respects to MCs, DJs, and the old school hip-hop's roots, like he tends to do. This one is, he's really, showing love. And of course, he's showing love by featuring people like Statik Selektah, who has those crazy scratches all over the track, and Redman, who has a crazy verse on it, and that vocal inflection is sick. Really bringing it back, you know what I'm saying? But then Logic brings in that Seth MacFarlane verse over a boom-back break beat with some female vocalizing in the background, and it's beautiful. The sound is blowing up on TikTok. I will say, the Seth MacFarlane verse is blowing up TikTok. He sounds like the second coming of Frank Sinatra himself, and it's crazy. It's great. It's a great track. Definitely a highlight on here. Next track here is a banger. Shimmy featuring Joey Badass. A decade into their friendship, Joey Badass and Logic finally have a track together. And this one isn't really what you would expect, I feel like, from a Joey Badass and Logic collab. Maybe you'd expect some lyrical stuff, some introspective boom bap stuff, but this one, no. This one's a slapper. All right, Logic decided to make this one a slapper. I've seen a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot, I've seen some people complain about this track, how they wish it was like boom bap, but it's like, I enjoy that Logic can take these featured artists and kind of put them on something, not that they're not used to, but he does that sometimes, but not with this track specifically, but something that people wouldn't expect. People see Logic and Joey on a track, they're probably like, oh, this is some lyrical miracle shit, but no, it is an homage to the great Old Dirty Bastard. Samples Shimmy Shimmy Yeah, obviously the hook, the title, it's called Shimmy, you see the connection there. And it's a fucking trap slapper. It's a slapper, man, you know what I'm saying? That hard 808s, it's a slapper. Joey has a great verse too. Slapper. This next track here, Paradise 2, single for the album. The first track we knew about College Park that I had basically been teasing for months and months and months and months and months on this channel before it finally came out. The bass line is great. One of Logic's best verses on this album. Super catchy. Norah Jones is great on her verse as well. But I do really like Logic's flow and the vibe of this track. This is definitely one of the more solid tracks on the album. And we do get an added skit on here within the full album release, different than the single version. And this skit is another one of those skits where it's like, I don't feel like it had that much substance, but it's hilarious. It's talking about convenience store robbery and, how Logic and Castro save the day, you know what I'm saying? It's cool, though. It's a cool skit. It's just nothing crazy, like I was saying. Come On Down, featuring Jordan Harris. Great track. I will say, the mix sounds a little weird on this. I saw some people complaining about the mix on this album throughout, and I'm not really great at telling that stuff, but on this track, I think it is a little bit noticeable. The 808s don't really hit how they should, but it's definitely a very unique instrumental. It almost is separate from the rest of the album, the way the track sounds to me. But I like how, there's this intro of this guy talking about selling your soul, you know what I'm saying? And the track is basically about that. And I like to see that this is a track that's pretty much based in 2011, almost like Logic rapping from 2011. And throughout this track list, you get lots of tracks where they have segments, or the whole tracks themselves are based in 2011, are based about Logic in the past, or they might be based about him in the present. And I think he does a really good job at transitioning through this seamlessly, especially with the skits. It kind of gives you hints on where the next track or the track prior. You start to piece this album together. When you really listen to it a lot, including the skits, you really start to piece it together. This next track here, Village Slum, goes deep into Logic's, fears of addiction, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, his family, how it's in his genes. And it's just, it's like sad almost. It's like sad to listen to, but I like that he goes into self-control and mental health and how, he's keeping it, in check. I really enjoy that. He's self-aware of that stuff, and there's a skit on this talking about Logic's, smoking before he goes to the show. Obviously the weed. You see how Village Slum is about addiction, drug abuse, and, talks about weed. And then it transitions directly into the next track, which is all about weed, Highlife. This is my least favorite single from the album. I'm not huge on this song. I'm really not. I liked it a good amount at first, but on repeat listens, this is definitely the weakest on the album. This is definitely the weakest. Very little substance to me. Just a pop stoner track. And I don't think it's that good. Okay, I don't think it's that good. This next track here is the Coordinate track featuring Dot Castro Big Lenbo. And this is the Coordinates College Park, so I guess this is title track. I guess this is, can we just call it the title track? This song, I actually like a lot. I've seen not really that much love for the song. Not a lot of people have been talking about the song, but I think it's great. They all have great verses. It's very chill, that instrumental. It's a little generic, I will say. Probably one of the more generic, standard default songs on this album, which I see why people aren't talking about it that much. However, they did their thing. All right, they all did their thing. It's pretty much a title track. It has the three main characters. They're all talking about College Park. It doesn't really stray away from that subject matter that much. So it's a cool track. This next track here, Ayo featuring Bun B, Lil Kiki. I'm going to say this is another one of the weaker ones to me. I think Logic's singing is actually really good in here. I think this is one of his better, pop singing tracks. I don't want to say it's pop, because it's like some old school type shit with Bun B and the Lil Kiki sample. I don't even think it's the sample. I think he re-recorded it the same way he did for No Pressure, as far as, the knocking doors down type shit, you know what I'm saying? Bun B had a really nice verse, though, a really chill verse. One of my favorite verses on the album, honestly, but this song, it didn't blow me away. Logic singing is really good. It doesn't have that it factor to me. I don't know what it is. That's why I'm waiting to do a tier list, because some of these tracks, I'm still figuring them out. You know what I'm saying? My ears are still attuning to them, whether I like them or not. This one is one of those tracks I'm kind of on the fence on, but I'm leaning more towards like. Highlife, I'm leaning more towards dislike, for sure. And then the outro to the track, what I think is Logic's best album outro ever, Lightyear. Oh my god. He got the sample that Kendrick used on Rigor Mortis cleared somehow, the 3 beat switches in the beginning, and this is another thing where I'm talking about the first section of the song is literally about, him never changing, and it's based about him rapping in 2011. That was his mind state. And the sample of the beat is some girl saying never change, and it's fucking chopped, and it's beautiful. That first section of the song is beautiful, then it transitions into the second section where he goes into how it actually is. He says, he's like, you thought this is how it really is. And then he talks about how he made pop music to try to spread a message. He wanted his fridge to be full for generations to come. So, he went pop. He admits he went pop. He did these things. However, despite doing these things and selling out, he was still trying to sell his message of peace, love, and positivity. And he was never selling himself. He may have sold his music, but he didn't sell his soul, and that was another subject that was touched on Come On Down. You see how this album ties together, and then he goes into the Rigor Mortis sample flip. Oh my god, the flow is just crazy. He's just really rapping on this. He's not really saying anything too crazy. He admits to being an old head, kind of, which, goes into the juxtaposition of having the 2011 verse and the 2023 verse. I don't literally mean that these verses were written in 2011. I'm just saying they're from the perspective of Logic from 2011. And then, the middle of the track, we have a little skit, Logic, where he talks about, how he doesn't just want to rap, he wants to do indie stuff, he wants to sing, he wants to play the guitar. And then the outro to the song is a Lightyear, the original snippet we had of him singing on the guitar, talking about how it's been a light year. His retirement was a light year. It was less than a year of him being retired. And now he wants to do different things. He's independent now. He doesn't just want to rap, he wants to sing, he wants to do all these other ballad type things, which I commend, and I could anticipate the next album, which will probably be the Ballad of Rooster Jenkins, will have some singing, and as the title would suggest, some ballad type stuff, and some rap stuff too, probably. But this album is tied together greatly with that outro, Lightyear, and altogether, this is a very good album. one of my favorite Logic's album. It makes it in the top 5. I think this is my 5th favorite. I think I might like Vinyl Days more, and then we got No Pressure, Under Pressure, Incredible True Story. I think that's my ranking right now. That may change throughout time, but this album is super solid. Logic has yet again executed another concept album beautifully. Concept albums are this man's strong point, and like I was saying, the only really gripes I have with this album, I'm not huge on Highlife, not huge on AO. Playwright isn't too crazy to me, and some of the skits have no meaning to me, but the skits that do have meaning and merit, deciphering, analytical value, add a lot to the album, I think. I think they really do. Some of them were a little bit long, but they are at the end of the tracks, except for Lightyear, so you can just skip them if you want for replayability, but as an album as a full, good job, Logic. I'm gonna give this, I'm gonna give this like an 8.5 out of 10. Okay, we got an 8.5 out of 10, you know what I'm saying? I think that's a pretty good rating for this. This may go up, but that's what I'm feeling right now. As I listen to the album more, my opinions may change, my thoughts may change, but that is what we are feeling right now. So, if you enjoyed watching, make sure you subscribe to the bell so you don't miss any videos, any updates, anything like that. Go in the description, follow my TikTok, my Twitter, my Instagram, and get the New Music Friday playlist down there so you never miss out on new music that drops every single week. And yeah, it's been Bryce. Peace.
Can't I picture little Bobby, just a young run around with his bands, hammer in his hand, feeling like a man.